Death is the gift we got and didn't want and can't get rid of. We are never really ready to receive it or its partners, grief and mourning. But death comes. Grief arrives too, and mourning, though rarely with enough time and space for its needs. Life says, push past it. The world says, get back to life. Yizkor, though, is the gift we unwrap and cherish. Yizkor says, stop. Recall those who died. Remember how they lived. Realize what we do because of them. Remember. Look around. Look back. Remember. Surely Yizkor is modest, not claiming to be the same thing as having the people we loved at our side, but giving us space to let in memory that connects us to those people. Yizkor is the gift we want to open, for when we do, we remember. We remember. A daughter stands at her stove stirring the chicken soup in the white enamel pot with the blue rim. She lifts her hand to the necklace resting on her collarbone. Both bring her close to her mom, yet remind her too of the distance since last Rosh Hashanah when they cooked together. This year she cooks alone. A man speaks frankly at his brother's grave. This was no easy relationship. It had its stresses and breaks. They lived very different lives. He looks back and names the challenges and, too, his pride in endeavoring to come back together for family in later years. A bride, next to her groom under the chuppah, is enveloped in her father's talit. Her father's hands left her shoulders years ago, but the legacy of his choice to become Jewish and pray beneath those fringes wrapping him now rest upon her and her beloved. Children look around their father's house and see his artwork on the walls. They recall his hands decades ago, choosing colors and making careful brush strokes, showing his quiet but strong creative spirit. Grandchildren text from across the globe seeking recipes of the grandma who taught them to make that kugel or those matzo balls. They receive scans and copies with grandma's notes in the margins. A friend holds a bright red pair of glasses on her desk. She looks at them often and sees the face of her lifelong friend, a friend who wore them most dramatically when he engaged a crowd. Parents open the drawer and lift up tiny garments, garments belonging to the child who never reached the next size, clothing that carries still the scent of another time. Great-grandchildren open a box and find sepia-toned photos, citizenship papers, letters written from wartime, history of their great-grandparents. Setting the holiday table, a family spreads linen cloths of aunts and grandmothers, ironed with precision each year for the holidays, napkins that they folded just so for each family gathering. Children look at the turmoil in the world and long to speak to their uncle, an insightful scholar of the times. They open his book, seeking his voice and his clarity on the patterns and upsets of history. A grandson sits down at his desk and looks up at his grandfather's pipe, cradling it in his hands, recalling that scent that brings back the man with the shock of white hair who loved to build. A granddaughter opens the family tree online, and what pops up? An image of a handwritten visa application, handwriting she's never seen, giving insights into generations in Poland, into those who perished in the Shoah. Watching her children read Torah on this very bima, a mother brings to mind her mother, knowing how proud she would be of these grandchildren whom she never met. A nurse looks at her desk in the clinic, above it, her prized possession, a hand-drawn and labeled anatomy book made by her grandmother in nursing school. It evokes this sacred legacy of her work. Kids pile onto the couch, perched on needlepoint pillows and wrapped in Afghans. They learn the stories behind them, of the loving hands and meticulously stitched. The hands that stitched their warmth and the faces of their makers, they're shown. Friends lie on the ground and look up at the sky, watching the moon and the stars with nearly the same wonder as when they were little. But then they were all there. Now there's a space between them. Turning on the radio, music, we hear music that brings us to that concert hall, to that concert on the lawn, to the bristly grass, to the soft velvet on the seats, to the hand next to ours of a loving partner. On really tough days, we speak aloud to the person who solved all the problems. We ask, what do I do now? And we listen carefully to hear what they would say if they were here. We have objects and actions. We have photos and clothing. We have recordings and documents, conversations and letters. We have hugs and arguments, memories and distant touch and feel. We have examples to follow and examples to contradict, words to repeat and words to avoid, traditions to maintain and others to grow. Death may be the gift we got and didn't want and can't get rid of. But Yizkor is the gift we unwrap and cherish, for Yizkor is the gift of memory. Surely Yizkor is modest, not claiming to be the same thing as having those people at our side. But Yizkor gives us space to remember, to let in those people and be connected to them. Yizkor says stop. Recall those who died, recall how they lived. Realize what we do because of them. Realize what we don't. Remember. Look back. Look around. Remember. Yizkor says, take in what you need, sit with it, live with it, remember. We sit, we remember. We pause to reflect on the power of the generations.